Thank you. Well, viewers, welcome to our live presentation on Scenic Eclipse, the world's first discovery yachts. Did you know that the Scenic Eclipse yachts are purpose-built for polar regions, Antarctica and the Arctic? Yet we are also equipped to introduce you to the best ocean cruise experiences that you could wish for in emerging destinations such as Japan, Siberia and the Russian Far East, the warm waters of Europe and the classic Mediterranean, North and Central America, and introducing the Sea of Cortez. And yet there's more. This presentation will make it easy for you to understand what it takes to set the benchmark for truly all-inclusive luxury ocean cruising. Viewers, my name is Zena and I'm a member of the Scenic Eclipse sales team based in Australia. Today, it's an absolute pleasure to be joined by two of my colleagues who have lived and worked in various corners of the planet, including working on board Scenic Eclipse. First, hello to Jackie.
Hi everyone, and welcome to you all from all over Australia and our friends in New Zealand. Both Zena and myself are so excited to be talking about this amazing vessel. And how lucky were we, Zena, to have actually sailed on this ultra luxury yacht back, oh my gosh, so long ago in 2019 it seems. But honestly, it has spoiled me now for any other type of cruising. But really, the person who we really need to introduce and is the expert on all things Eclipse is Jason Flesher. We are so lucky to have him join us all the way from the US, our Expedition Operations Manager for Scenic's Discovery Yachts. Now, Jason has extensive experience with 10 seasons in the polar regions. He also joined Scenic for our inaugural season in Antarctica in 2019 and is involved in all of the offboard activities. Welcome, Jason, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really so envious of your knowledge, your experience, and generally what you do for us and on the Eclipse. And I'm sure our viewers would love to know a little bit more about your background and what you do in your role.
Sure. Well, thank you, and most importantly, thank you for having me and joining you today. So basically, I'm based in the Southwest of the United States, as we discussed earlier, but I also have over 35 years experience in the outdoor industry, in wilderness search and rescue as well, bringing all that to my role as the Expedition Operations Manager. And I was also in the Navy in my early 20s as well, and that's truly where I fell in love with the sea at that time. But I've been guiding and managing programs in Antarctica, like you mentioned, for over 10 years now, over 10 seasons with over 50 trips visiting the Antarctic Peninsula itself. And I joined Eclipse in Croatia at the shipyard itself a few weeks prior to her sailing for her maiden voyages. And so I was there in Croatia, getting all the expedition equipment and gear out of the boxes and onto the ship and getting everything organized and prepared for her maiden voyages. And then I was also her original discovery leader on board for her first few maiden voyages, which started up in Iceland. And then since then, becoming the Expedition Operation Manager for over a year now. And so I oversee the entire discovery program on board, behind the scenes, as well as managing all the discovery guides.
Oh, wow, that is just fantastic. Thank you so much. And we really are excited. But maybe we're putting you to the test here, having your Australian debut. Look, it's beneficial from what you just said, honestly, to have you and your expertise join us, because the aim today is for, between the three of us, to really explain what makes the world's first discovery yachts just so unique. And I'm sure, Jason, with your insights, it'll be handy for everyone to know. So viewers, with that, you're in great hands. Let's get underway. Over the session, let me tell you what we will cover off on. First, it's all about being on board a truly all-inclusive, ultra-luxury ocean cruise experience. And you'll probably notice already, and you can follow us too, we call them yachts, not ships. The fundamental understanding of what cruising on a super yacht is all about, we'll cover off on. We'll then take you through our commitment to your health, your safety and well-being, and most of all, what it means to book now with that confidence and peace of mind, because we offer you flexible booking conditions. Everybody has been paused in the world, and so we've also taken this opportunity to have the Scenic Eclipse in dock and use our time productively by bringing forward all the feedback from our successful first season, and Jason will touch on this with Jackie. And we've added some new and exciting small enhancements to the layout, some facilities and experiences. And we're excited to highlight those innovations as we go through the presentation. You can also find this detailed on the website and in the brochure. First, sit back and relax, and I'll start with the story. And the Scenic story is a fascinating and an Australian one. We all love a great story about Australia. Glenn Moroney founded Scenic Tours 35 years ago as a coach tour company within Australia. In the 1990s, this grew to New Zealand, onto Norfolk, then onto Southern Africa. And by 2000s, or the year 2000, we started hosting tours to Canada and Alaska, and were soon recognised as the leading touring company there. Then throughout the 2000s, we added new destinations across Europe, Russia and Asia, onto South America, and that expanded our touring portfolio. Today, Scenic has offices across the globe along with two sister companies. You may have heard of Emerald Waterways and Evergreen Tours, and after 35 years of immense success, we are looking toward an exciting future. In 2008, that's when we started our exciting world of shipbuilding with European river cruising. And only a few years later, in 2019, our inaugural season with Scenic Eclipse. Since then, we are proud to have been voted with the most coveted awards for the best initiatives in cruising and luxury. Now, I'll just touch on something before we move right into why you're all here. And that's, many of us today have cruised extensively and with many different cruise lines. And we all understand that term all-inclusive is used by a lot of them. And it means a lot to so many different people. So at Scenic, we just want to point out we do things differently. Truly all-inclusive luxury, without exception, is what we deliver. Throughout the presentation, we're just going to show examples of what we mean by Scenic Eclipse's truly all-inclusive cruise experience. I do want to mention now, though, and put it up front for you, that some guests will want to choose a spa facial, a helicopter, or submarine excursion. Now, we'll explain later in the presentation how these work, why we offer them, and that these are extra experiences which some guests might want to personally have and pay for. But what can you expect on and off board with Scenic Eclipse? Well, every single element of your journey that you find in the brochure is considered, and it is significant on what is included. It takes in everything from dining, beverages, wellness, entertainment on board, to the shore excursions, touring and special events. We take this through to the impeccable butler service, and that's for all guests. That all expensive Wi-Fi, it's included. Mini bar, transfers, tipping and gratuities, both on board and off board, as well as making this is a very relaxing and carefree experience. So without further ado, let's introduce you to Scenic Eclipse. Jason, I think there's nobody better than you to do this. And I hear you have an extraordinary memory of Scenic Eclipse on the last sailing, which was about a year ago.
Yeah, just about a year ago now. And it's, you know, to be honest with you, Zena, it's a story I'll never forget. And the reason why is it was the very last voyage of on Eclipse down in Antarctica, just as the whole COVID outbreak took place. And two things were happening. One, we had a IATO, a Antarctic inspector on board. And that was one of the reasons why I was down on the ship itself, because in my role, it gives me the opportunity to not only work from the office, but work from the ship as well, to be there supporting the Discovery team, the crew, and everybody. And because we're having a major inspection taking place for certification, we had the inspector there. So, and not only did we have him on board, but then something was happening in the world, and it was the COVID crisis. So when we left Argentina to head down, we had a sense something was going on in the world. So we started actually, and this is really important, I think, in many ways, because we started taking the health and wellness of our guests very seriously in the beginning, because we knew something was happening in the world. So we started doing temperature checks every day. We started doing a class 1, what we call disinfecting, several times a day on the ship itself. And because of that, in the middle of the voyage is when countries started shutting down and things were happening. But we kept going forward. We kept doing our health checks and our wellness and everything. So towards the end of our voyage, and just incidentally, that inspector gave us the highest rating he's ever given any operator in his 11-year career of doing these inspections, because he was inspecting not only the ship in Antarctic waters, but the Discovery team. He was evaluating the team in our complete operation, so that we can, because it was our maiden voyages down to Antarctica. And so it was amazing. And on top of that, as we're sailing back to Argentina is when the war-winning crisis. And at that point, because we did everything right and everything well with our guests actually got an extra 10, 11 days on board the ship. We ended up having to sail all the way to Uruguay, just past Buenos Aires, when we were able to finally get the ability to fly our guests off all at once. And when we got up there, because we were trying to figure out where to go, what the best opportunity for our guests to be able to manage it and work it. And the Scenic office in Australia and in Malta were working day and night, back and forth, making it all happen. But because we were doing our safety and wellness checks for our guests, the government of Uruguay, we sent them all the paperwork, recognized that. So when we got to port, we were anchored for one night. All the other expedition ships were there as well, and trying to figure out how they were going to get guests off. We sailed past them all, got into port. We had buses, a healthy corridor in place. We had a charter flight. We got all our guests off all at once, onto the buses, onto the charter flight, over to Chile, to Santiago. And from there, we had charter flights to different parts of the world, and everyone got home well and safe. And then from that point, my story continued, because I was only supposed to be on for 3 weeks, and it turned into almost 3 months, because I didn't even get off the ship until Gibraltar. So I sailed all the way from Antarctica up to Europe, to when I was able to finally get off the ship, because I wanted to make sure the crew and the Discovery team were off first, before, as she was sailing to Croatia. So when I was able to get home, and I actually caught the very last airplane out of the UK back to the United States before it was completely shut down. So I lucked out during the voyage.
Well, I just want to say, I just want to say there's 2 things there. You've just highlighted that experience that we have working with us across the entire team, but also the pressure that you were under and being able to deliver. That's a big, big plus there. But I also know that you had an incredible first impression, and you alluded to it before, when you first met Scenic Eclipse in Croatia. Tell us a bit about that.
Sure. So I arrived in Croatia at the shipyard just about 2 weeks prior to her sailing for her maiden voyage. And when I got there, as I mentioned, I had to get all the equipment and gear together, but also all the Zodiacs. I had to get at least 16 hours on every engine, of all 12 Zodiacs. And at that point, the shipyard and the workers were working 24 hours a day in, 2-3 shifts, getting ready for her maiden sail. And so when we finally sailed that night, the last piece of the puzzle was getting the Scenic Neptune onto the ship. And we did that roughly at about 5 p.m. And we've got her on the ship, and all the media and all the town folk and the shipyard was there, and we got the submarine on board. Then I got my Zodiac on board, and we sailed off, and it was so surreal. And one of our first stops, as you see in this photo, was Malta. And we spent a few days in Malta. And what was so unique was this was the first test of Eclipse. And the reason why is we're along the pier side, it's a shallow water. And because of her shallow draft, and I'll get into her technology in a second, but it allowed us to go alongside on the shallow pier, which is only really made for yachts and so on, and hence our Discovery yacht, where just to the left of the photo is where the main port is, where the entry is, and that's where all the big ships are and the other expedition ships were. And this is why we were the only one in this iconic, unique location in Malta. We didn't have to go cross town to, the piers where all the other ships were. And what was really awesome, after, like I said, we spent 2.5 days there. We sailed out roughly that late afternoon, early evening. And you see me in the Zodiac, we had to get the Zodiac back on board. So we had to pull the ship out first. And one thing I noticed is heading out of the port of Malta were all these people on the buildings and in the historic fort, which oversees the entry into the port. And because she's such a beautiful ship, everybody was coming out during the 2-3 days to check her out and see what is this beautiful, huge yacht is. But what was amazing, as we sailed out of the port, at the historic fort there, they fired off their cannons to wish us well, basically, that seafarers, fair winds and gentle seas, to wish us luck on our journey. And from that point, we're heading on our way to Iceland for her actual maiden voyage to have guests on board. So it was amazing, month prior to getting our guests on board.
And that's incredible how you've described that. It really underpins why these yachts are in their own class. And especially in a port like Malta, where I've been to, and everybody else was crammed and having to travel those distances. So thank you for highlighting that point. Now, I invite you to take us through the state-of-the-art technology.
One of the things that really truly impressed me in regards to Eclipse, when I first got on board and really started learning about her technology and everything involved with her, is how advanced she is and how she was built specifically to, for instance, cross the Drake Passage, and built specifically for the polar regions. So some of the technologies that she has is her safe return to port. She has redundant bridges. She has redundant systems. So if there was a failure somewhere, there's another part of the ship that can take over control to make sure we can get back to port safely because of triple redundancies there. There's, like I said, the second bridge, and then in engineering, there's another bridge down in engineering to sail the ship. She is a polar ice class 6 rated hull, which is actually the highest ice class rating for any type of cruise ship, just one step below an actual icebreaker itself. And I'll get into that in a little bit also in some of the future presentations that we'll be doing, why that truly mattered. But also she's fast. She can sail up to 17 knots. And so crossing the Drake Passage, where most ships take 40 to 48 hours to cross the Drake Passage to get to Antarctica, we can do it in 36 hours. So we can actually be doing excursions in the Shetland Islands, on the late afternoon of the second day down there, which is amazing. But also she's equipped with an advanced heating, ventilation, air conditioning system. So there's always 100% airflow that goes through, and part of our new healthy ship and everything on board, she goes through a complete HEPA filter system now that's on board as part of the safety precautions for our guests. But also Has a class 1 notification, which basically features she's quiet. So in your cabin, in your suites, on the public areas, on the ship itself, you don't even hear her. You don't hear her grumbling. You don't hear anything with her. She's so silent, and that's because of the way she was built specific for that. So you don't hear those exterior or shipboard noises that you would hear on other ships. But one of my favorite features about Eclipse, and this is so important, whether you're in the polar regions or in the Mediterranean or on the Great Barrier Reef, wherever, is that she has what we call a DPS system, dynamic positioning, where pretty much all your other ships have to drop at anchor. And on Eclipse, we don't. Basically, when we get into a location, for instance, on this photo, let's say, the captain pushes a button and DPS is enacted, and it's a GPS system that holds her in place. So she has overextended bow thrusters. She also, her oxypods, which we don't have a rudder, the entire propulsion system rotates 360 degrees. So the ship can hold point. And for us, it's so important for the operation because it holds lee. So the wind is on the windward side, so we're on the leeward side. So running zodiacs is very easy, but also on sensitive coral areas and shallow areas where our ship Eclipse can go and other ships just can't, we don't have to drop an anchor to damage the ocean floor or the sea life or the sensitive areas. We can sail in to a reef area, hold DPS, and do our full operation without disturbing the ocean floor and the coral, which makes her so special. And that allows us to really experience places other ships can't go to. And the other great feature is her oversized fins that she has, her stabilizers. And her stabilizers, as you see here, is on the left side is your typical cruise ship, expedition ship. On Eclipse, she's 50% larger than any other ship. Her fin sizes are the same size as the world's largest cruise ship, which dwarfs Eclipse, but it shows because she's so stable, even at 0 speed, the waves, currents, and wind won't tip her. She won't rock or anything. She's just that stable. And the fins are electronic. So based on wind and current, even at 0 speed, they'll still move to hold her stable, just like a whale's fins, which is amazing. But a couple other quick features is her environmental features, which I genuinely appreciate, is, how with cruise ships, they'll dump what they say are gray water off into international waters. Well, on Eclipse, we have a triple redundancy water treatment plant on board, 3 water plants. So when the gray water actually goes back into the water, it's clear water. And I don't want to say it's drinkable because it hasn't gone through our reverse osmosis, but it is a clean water system that actually goes into the ocean. And then our drinking water is in a double redundancy reverse osmosis system. And then also we have full recycling on board. And what's also very impressive to me is her fuel. Most of your older expedition ships and even some of the newer ones still burn the heavy fuel oil. But on Eclipse, she only burns a diesel, clean burning diesel, which is similar to what you put in your car, diesel cars. So her emissions are very low. And we're working very hard right now on board and with the ship to have that minimal carbon footprint. And so that's why that's important to me, and I know to the Discovery team and all of you, having that minimal carbon footprint on board so that we don't disturb the air, but also the wildlife as well.
Wow, look, you've just underpinned everything for our viewers that explains how we become that benchmark, how it becomes the ultra luxury super yacht, and something that you wouldn't have experienced before. So I also wanted to say for viewers, there's a lot of information there. So you can find more information on the website. frequently asked questions, and we have some amazing articles, and they also feature Jason and other presenters that explain a bit more with stories, articles, and news about these features and more. So moving into the next section, oh, it just jumped ahead a couple. Explained the full inclusions. Jason's talked about the technology, state-of-the-art ultra luxury yacht. So now, Jason, would you mind introducing us to the onboard team, that human element?
Yep, I actually took this photograph. This was on that last night of that COVID cruise with our guests and everything. And for one, it's nearly a 1-to-1 ratio, guest to crew, which is so unique compared to any other expedition ship or cruise ship. So our guests truly have that unique 1-to-1 perspective. And so in the back, in the blue shirts, you see the Discovery team, and I'll talk a little more in depth about them in a little bit, but you're going to find the Discovery team is, most importantly, they're part of the story. They're there to enrich that experience that you're looking for. And like I said, I'll get a bit into them in a little bit. On the left side of the photo, in the middle, you see the hotel team, and as well as the culinary team. And Chef Tom up here on the upper right side, who's an incredible, amazing chef. He had to create over 2,500 recipes for all of our restaurants on board, all 10 of our restaurants. And for the guests to have a rotation in to taste something twice, so to speak, in any of the restaurants, you'd have to be on board for at least a month and a half before the menus start back up again. So on your given voyage, even our longest voyage, which is about 20 days, you would never eat the same food twice in any of the restaurants, which is just amazing. And then, of course, on the left, our two captains, Captain James and Captain Irwin. And our captains combined have over 50 years experience working in the polar regions in the world themselves. And Captain James is from the UK, and Captain Irwin is from France themselves. And what's so unique with Eclipse is because Scenic owns the ship, we don't charter the ship like many operators do. Our captains and our team and our crew are part of the experience. They're there, they're not contracted or anything like many other operators. So they have that intimate knowledge of the ship, that intimate knowledge, especially our butler team and our hotel team, of all our guests, and they're there for your needs, as are the Discovery team and the officers and deck crew themselves, you know, are part of that experience for our guests, which makes it truly unique and unique for me, you know, working on ships for many years and different operators. There is none second to none to Eclipse. And I truly genuinely say that because of the fact we're part of the team and we're there year round, you know, and it's amazing to always see guests, you know, back with us because we remember.
Oh, beautiful. So tell us a bit about Discovery versus Expedition, just a really quick rundown on what you see that to be.
You know, for our guests who, you know, because as you mentioned early on, are very savvy cruisers. And one of the things on Scenic Eclipse is we don't call her an expedition ship. We don't call her, we're going on an expedition. She's a discovery yacht. So everything is discovery, the discovery team, the discovery leader, the discovery activities, because you may have been to Antarctica, like in this photo here, before, but we truly try to enrich and enhance the story you want to leave with, and be a part of the story, but not be the story. So yes, you may have a sense of something new and expedition-y, like in this photo. This is an amazing photo here, but it's part of that discovering something new. And here, this was on the maiden Antarctic voyage.
Wow.
We got down to the Weddell Sea, and Captain James was the captain at the time. And this is where I mentioned, well, we need to figure out what she can do. And let's see what this ice class 6 hull can actually do. So we went down into the Weddell Sea as far as you can go till we hit the fast sea ice. You have sea ice, which is floating, but the fast ice is attached to land. So we went as far deep into Weddell Sea that no other ships go to, because they can't, because they don't have the same ice class that we do, until we couldn't go any further. So the captain basically parked the ship right up to the ice floe. And so the Discovery leader and some of the Discovery team went out to make sure the ice was safe. It was, and we started having the guests come out, because go for a walk on water on the ice. Now, granted, the water depth right there is over 100 meters deep, and this ice was so thick you can drive a tank on it. But as you see here on the right, we have 2 Adelie penguins that popped up on the ice, which was great. And then all of a sudden, there was a big bird. We call it a big bird. We're not going to go on the radio and say, I think there's an emperor penguin there, because if the guest heard that, everyone's going to get super excited. And we wanted to make sure, so we have code for everything. So on the radio, if you hear a big bird, get excited, because then we're going to go look. And sure enough, this emperor penguin came up on the ice. And then all of a sudden, another one, and then another one came up. And this time of year when we're there, you really don't see emperors. And so it was so exciting on the first voyage down Antarctica, went deep in the Weddell Sea where no one else goes to. And we have an ice walk and emperor penguins. And so the bar was raised so high for the rest of the season. But it was just so incredible, of a unique opportunity for our guests. But that's what she does, to go discover. And then here, the Discovery team, just to chat a quick sec about the Discovery team itself, is there, we have in the polar regions up to 21 Discovery team members, and they're from all over the world. And on a given voyage, we can have anywhere from 5 to 8 countries represented of the Discovery team, but they're all professionals in their fields. They're PhDs and master degree holders. And I have a couple Discovery members that hold 5 different masters, but they love and the passion of sharing and enriching our guests in the polar regions, or any region in the world. It doesn't have to be the polar regions. In the Mediterranean, I have specialists on the Med, in the Caribbean, the Russian Far East, Japan, but they're ornithologists, marine biologists, glaciologists, geologists, historians, naturalists, and like I said, from all over the world. And so in the given region of the world we're in, of course, I would have a historian and specialist for that region to really enhance. And so not only on board, we have a full lecture series that are provided on, the whales, the penguins, the ice, the rocks, the birds, the history of wherever you are, but also on land. So the Discovery team are your Zodiac drivers. So it's a treat to be on a Zodiac cruise and have one of the specialists being your driver, interpreting what you see, or on land, where if we're around a penguin colony or seals on shore, the marine biologist would be near the shore, where the ornithologist would be around the penguin colony. So they can really explain what's unfolding right in front of you, which is amazing to see. And one question that does come up periodically from guests who may be, worried, whether they're elderly, like for instance, we had 4 generations on board the ship where we had great-grandparents celebrating their 73rd or 74th wedding anniversary, I can't remember exactly. And then we had all the kids down to the grandkids, the great-grandkids on board. Just amazing. And it didn't break our hearts. We all welled up when on the night of their anniversary, and we had evening entertainment and live music, and they had the first dance. Our great-grandparents. It was so special for everybody. But one of the questions, especially with some of our folks who may be physically challenged, how do we get on and off Zodiacs? And that's a big fear. So with this photo, you can see here walking down the gangway, or what we call the side gate. You'd have your driver on board. And so you would step from the platform onto the pontoon, And that yellow box is a step box. So it's just like walking down steps. And then your driver, you see how they're holding wrists. You never hold hands. It's called a sailor's grip because that's your best grip. And your driver will guide you to the side of the pontoon they would like you on. And then you would sit and then slide into position where they would have you. And we get all our guests, up to 10 guests, on the Zodiac, so it's quite intimate, no more than 10, get on board. And then, they'll sail away. And then when you return back to the ship, it's all reversed. The little step box comes back, and one at a time, we have our guests get back on board. So it's very safe. And because, like I said, with our DPS system, when we're in lee, we get that calmer water. So you don't have this rocky motion too much. And then for our paddlers, and we'll talk a little bit about the excursion in a little bit, we have our marina deck. And so our marina deck, which is the back of the ship. And just to take a step back for a sec, the photos you've seen of Eclipse, all buttoned up. She looks like a sleek, beautiful Discovery yacht, as she was meant to be. But Mr. Maroney, Glenn, wanted it that way. But when she's in Discovery mode and she's opened up, she looks like that expedition ship. So the back end actually opens up and you have the marina deck, the stairs unfold, the kayaks come out. And this photo just shows how easy it is to get in and out of our kayaks, where one kayak guide is holding the boat, is sandwiched the guest kayaks in between the marina deck and their boat. And then the Discovery guide, who's in the green, holding the boat, helping our guests get in and out. So it's very easy getting in and out of the kayaks themselves from the ship itself or from the side gate. So, and there's always a Discovery team member and crew helping our guests, as well as getting on shore from the Zodiac itself. So,
well, and this is the bit where the fleet is equipped also with the state-of-the-art helicopters that seats up to 6 guests. And I think this really shows and upholds what sets that benchmark for ultra luxury cruising, because it's the exclusivity of doing an experience like this, and some guests want it. Now, you remember from the start, we said we'd explain very briefly how and why these work the way they do. Jason, if you can just run over through this from the helicopters into the submarines for us.
of course. So really quickly to say, there's absolutely nothing like flying off the ship and back on the ship, wherever in the world you're at. That's the greatest treat whenever I've flown on one of the Scenic helicopters. As Zena mentioned, it holds 6 guests itself. And if you are on one of the helicopter excursions, one of 2, they're 30-minute flights. We rotate, so about every 15 minutes, a helicopter is landing, taking off. So not one is waiting for the other, so we have it dialed in very well. You have a waiting area, which is our helicopter lounge, as we call it, which is on the helicopter deck, which is inside, so you're comfortable while waiting for your flight. So once helicopter lands, the guests come off the helicopter, and then the next set of guests will head to the helicopter. So it's very minimal amount of time, because we want to maximize your time on the helicopter itself. And our pilots, who are very, very well experienced, our pilots come from the Alps, the Italian and Swiss Alps pilots, so they're used to adverse conditions. Our pilots have over 10 years of flying in Antarctica and Greenland as well. And so they know, they have the keen eye of looking for the whale pods and looking for the wildlife, but never ever going low enough to disturb. So safety is paramount and not disturbing the wildlife. So we're very cognizant of that. So we have our protocols. And then with our submarine on board Scenic Neptune, gives our guests that opportunity to explore from below the ocean. And just last year, we actually won a Sea Trade Cruise Award that I was able to speak to for the event, where we won this award as a unique expedition add-on, because Eclipse was the first ship in history to have both helicopters and submarines on board for guests themselves. And in Antarctica, we were the first to actually operate both simultaneously. And This photo here, this is her coming out of her submarine garage, which is located on the port or left side of Eclipse. As then once we put her in the water, the sub pilots get on board, and we basically tow her to her dive site, which then you would meet the Scenic Neptune for your sub dive. And everything, whether it's the kayaking, the paddling, the submarine, the helicopter, you receive the night before your schedule for, so if you're slated to fly, dive, or paddle, you'll get a ticket that late afternoon, early evening to let you know your flight time, your dive time, your paddle time, where to meet, where to go, and then your pilots will meet you, or your shuttle driver to the submarine or your kayak guides will meet you and get you all set up properly and walk you through as you get ready for your excursion itself. And here, the paddlers, this was actually our warm water paddle off the marina deck, which is great. So we have both our paddleboard and our kayaks going. And our kayaks, we do have 8 tandem kayaks for guests, which holds 16 total, and 2 kayak guides. We have 10 paddle boards, which are custom made actually for our guests as well. And 1 paddleboard guide that goes with too. So our polar regions, you're guided on the paddling excursion, and our warm water regions, you're self-guided on those. We set up parameters, but it's self-guided in those unique areas.
And briefly about the paddle boards.
Yeah, paddleboard, which is amazing because it's going to be new to our next itineraries, where we're going to be paddling. We paddled in the warm waters, but we're introducing paddleboarding to our Antarctic regions. And to tell you the truth, whether you're kayaking or paddleboarding, it's all part of the inclusiveness where there's no charges for it, which is a lot of our guests are very surprised because you'll spend hundreds of dollars for a couple-hour paddle. Where you are here on board Eclipse, it's free. You just sign up and we get you on, and we'll let you know when you'll be able to paddle. But one of my greatest experiences when I was paddleboarding here in this photo is I had a Gentoo penguin jump on my board. And I looked around first going, is there an orca? Is there a leopard seal around? You know, why did it jump on? And then I realized, no, he was just wanting a break. So I wasn't expecting to pick up a hitchhiker that day, but did. And he hung out with me for a good 5 minutes before then, you know, just took off and jumped into the water, back in the water. And it's happened to numerous guests, you know, so it's a unique experience, whether they jump into a Zodiac or jump onto a paddleboard. It's just an amazing feature to happen. Now, here with our Zodiac and tenders, in the polar regions, we use our Zodiacs. Our Zodiacs are our workhorses because whether it's for Zodiac cruises, for where we're not landing, but offshore whale watching, looking at the land, the magnificent land and topography, or shuttling to and from shore. But we also, in our areas outside of the polar regions, we use our tenders as well, especially when we're in the Mediterranean, Caribbean, where we have a lot of ports, but we couldn't anchor, or we couldn't go alongside that day. So we had an anchor or DPS system away. So we would use the tenders because our tenders can hold 70 people as a shuttle. 150 people is an emergency boat, but about 70 to 80 people as a shuttle. And so we can get a lot of people to shore very quickly. So we use our tenders more than our Zodiacs when we're in those warm regions.
Well, Jason, you have brought the yachts to life. You've opened it up here, and I cannot think of one good reason not to go. And I'll tell you, you've really made me really yearn to go back. Look, will you stay on during the presentation and talk through what it's like on board now with Jackie?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Jackie, let me hand over to you then for the onboard experience.
Thanks, Zena. Thanks, Jason. Yeah, like Zena said, I want to go. You sign me up, sign me up. Now, we've mentioned that with only 228 travelers on board and 200 in the polar regions, the Scenic Eclipse has an abundance of space across 10 luxurious decks. Now, one of my favorite areas is the observation terrace. overlooking the front of the yacht. And one of my most treasured memories, and you'll remember this as well, Zena, is when we sailed into New York and we had that amazing unparalleled views of Lady Liberty right in front of us, right front and center. Now, Jason, I'm sure you'd have many more stories of spotting wildlife from this deck.
Oh, I mean, this is our main observation deck, and it's not only a stunning view, because she is on deck 5, so you're not far from the water line itself to really spot the whales, or you look over the bow and see the dolphins and porpoising swimming, you know, along the ship itself, and just all the other sea life that we've seen, beautiful sunfish to beluga to you name it. And this is an incredible viewing area, but we also do wonderful champagne cocktail hours with appetizers, hors d'oeuvres on this deck. And in the warm waters, we'll also have dance parties outside. If it's a beautiful night, you know, as I always say, especially as a discovery leader, if you're on the inside, you're on the wrong side sometimes when you want to see all those incredible views of what's out there, but also what's going on the ship.
Traditionally, this area of the ship on other ships are closed off to guests, but not on the Eclipse.
Yeah, and on the observation lounge here, which is on the inside of the observation deck, we do have Discovery team members who will be stationed in the lounge as well as other locations throughout the ship, so that if there's anything spotted or whatever, they're there to interpret for our guests what's happening. But they're also there to go look for the whales, look for, you know, what's happening out there, to let the bridge know, oh, I spotted a pod of orcas. The captain will stop the ship and we'll get everybody out to view what's happening.
And I'm sure a lot of our guests would love to see where all the magic happens, and this is the bridge. And I believe we have an open bridge policy here as well. Is that right, Jason?
Correct. We do have an open bridge policy, which is a wonderful opportunity because our guests can go up to the bridge anytime. There's a couple times when we're pulling to port or somewhere where it's closed, but we'll have a sign. But 99% of the time, she's an open bridge, day or night. And we have telescopes up there. We have books up there. We have Discovery team member up there. And the bridge crew is always happy to talk to our guests if they're curious about the charts or how the ship works and all that. All we ask is don't push any buttons and don't stand in front of the crew. But most importantly, it's open to everybody any time of day.
Perfect. And this is another great outdoor area on the ship. And I'm sure this will be a very popular spot, the Panorama Bar on deck 10. Now this looks quite different since I sailed on the Eclipse, and I believe we've had some enhancements. I can see a new bar, there's lots of extra sun lounges. Of course, our spas and whirlpools are still there. And this seems to be the optimal vantage point to enjoy a cocktail or two while taking in the most amazing surrounds. And are those cabanas that I can see on the side of the ship? Now, Jason, I thought the ship was pretty much perfect already. So what was the story behind all of these enhancements?
You know, we listen to our guests. Our guests are our best feedback. And on deck 10, we had the hot tubs, the 2 hot tubs up there and some chairs, but there was no service. And they were asking for a bar service, a bartender, something up there, more chairs, and the cabanas as well. And so we listened. So while she's been laid up in dry dock, not dry dock, but in her shipyard right now, we've done a lot of enhancements to Eclipse. And one of the greatest enhancements is adding this deck 10 bar and full service for our guests so they can enjoy the hot tubs, be served up there, whether it's in the polar regions or warm waters, it doesn't matter. Now we have that full service and those private cabanas along the sides as well, which is I'm so excited to be back on board and see the enhancements.
Our guests are really at the forefront of all that we do, isn't it? It's not just enhancing the guest experience on shore, but we want to make sure that their onboard experience is second to none. Like this beauty, it's a bit decadent, isn't it? I can just imagine enjoying a glass or 2 of champagne while sailing past majestic glaciers in the Arctic in this Vitality pool. And there's even more sun lounges there as well. But first, let's introduce our spa sanctuary. And we're talking 550 square meters of pure indulgence. Can you just imagine after a day out on the ice flats of Antarctica or stand-up paddleboarding in the Med? I can't think of a better place to rejuvenate my old tired muscles. The plunge pools, saunas, steam rooms, and relaxation areas, they are all complimentary for our guests. And check out these thermal lounges. Bose headsets available to help soothe the mind. You can try specialist ice showers. Everything in our spa area is included and accessible to all guests at no charge. The only additional charge is if you book in for a spa treatment, such as a massage or facial. And then for our guests that want to center their chi, why not get into the Zone in Pure, which is our yoga and Pilates studio. And also included, if you wanted to work off those calories, you can sign up for a session with our onboard personal trainer in our gym. Z, I believe you spent a bit of time here.
I did, just very briefly, when I went on board. I never have time in my life, so I ended up having a one-on-one fitness session with the instructor. They took on my fitness level, which was great, and then created a personalised program to follow, and ensuring I didn't overdo it with all that pain when we try to do these things ourselves.
Yes, now this is our custom designed state-of-the-art theatre, and there is a full service bar here as well, which you can take advantage of while you're enjoying everything from live music, there's performances to presentations, movies, lectures, concerts, and more. There's onboard lectures that you mentioned as well, Jason.
Yep. Yeah, so what's unique about this theater in the round, which is just amazing, state of the art, is this is where our Discovery team do provide lectures and presentations as well. And the seating is incredible. It's like first class seats. They do open, they do swivel. But if, for instance, if you're not feeling too well and you don't necessarily want to come down for the live lecture or presentation, we have it streaming live in your suites, as well as in the main lounge bar too. We have the big jumbo TVs in there. So it gives our guests the opportunity to, you know, still view what's going on, but not necessarily have to be in the room at the same time.
Sounds great. Now, this is the Scenic Lounge, and it's the main hub of the ship. And for many of our guests, this is going to be your first look at the amazing interiors of the Eclipse. This is the largest of our 9 bars and lounges, and really a great place to meet up with newfound friends for pre-dinner or pre-show drink or two. And Jason, we also have daily entertainment in the lounge as well.
We do. We have a piano bar in the lounge. We'll usually have a singer joining the piano bar, but we also do different activities. We have an entertainment host who's always amazing, doing game nights and all kinds of cool trivia and fun things for our guests.
For those who have cruised on the larger ocean liners, you'd be familiar with beverage packages, right? Now, having to put your hand in your pocket for a specialty coffee, cocktails, or top shelf spirits and the like, well, with Scenic, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just your alcoholic beverages, it's anything you would like, any time of the day that is included. Now, I wonder how many of the 100 types of whiskeys or 10 gins one could sample on a 10-day cruise. Give it a good shot. Now, my favorite part of the truly all-inclusiveness that is the Eclipse is that there is, again, no charge for specialty dining. Its dining is inclusive at all venues. So let me repeat that. No surcharge for specialty dining. Remember that wallet-free cruising Zena spoke about earlier? Well, there is no best restaurant. And with 9 different venues plus your in-suite dining, you could dine somewhere different every night. So let's have a quick look. This is the Azure Bar and Cafe. It's perfect for early risers for that first cup of coffee or feeling a little peckish in the afternoon. The Azure Bar and Cafe is the perfect spot for relaxed all-day grazing. Now, this is where you'd normally find me around 3 in the afternoon for a pizza and cheesecake just to get me through to dinner. And Jason mentioned earlier that Eclipse's recent enhancements came about through our guest feedback. And here's another example. This is the Yacht Club. It has evolved since we've been on, and Chef Tom here has added in additional seating to enhance the dining experience. And then moving on to Elements. Elements is our Italian restaurant featuring Italian favorites, steak and seafood, and is open for lunch and dinner. And my friend Zena reckons it's the best Wagyu steak she's ever had. Lumiere. Now, this is our contemporary French fine dining at its best, and the champagne bar. Now, Zena, I bet you remember when we spent quite a bit of time up here. Our little tip for you, make sure you leave yourself a good half an hour before your dinner reservation to indulge in some oysters and caviar while sipping on champagne. Another great onboard experience is our open galleys, and you'll be able to see through expansive glass windows and witness firsthand the passion, the creativity and expertise that goes into preparing every meal. Moving on to Coco's, this is our Asian fusion restaurant, and it features 3 different dining experiences for you to enjoy. A wonderfully authentic Japanese experience awaits you at Sushi at Coco's, where talented chefs create delicacies for you to enjoy while looking out to the spectacular surrounds. And if you're wanting a little more than sushi, then do yourself a favor and enjoy private dining with an authentic teppanyaki grill at night markets at Coco's. Now, a truly special dining experience, and this is by invitation only, is the Chef's Table. It's found within Elements Restaurant. It is an innovative dining degustation menu unlike anything you have experienced before, and this is hosted by our very talented Chef Tom. And this is all part of Scenic Eclipse's truly all-inclusive dining. Now, our very talented chefs on board will also immerse you further in the delights of gastronomy and our dedicated masterclasses at the Scenic Epicure. So this is where you'll be taken on a journey of local cuisines, and the best part of it all, you'll get to eat it all too. And of course, maybe wash it down with a glass or 2 of champagne. Now, moving quite quickly on to our accommodation, Scenic Eclipse redefines the industry standard for luxury ocean cruising, as we mentioned before. And that doesn't stop with our suites on board. They all offer a private veranda, and all are located either midship or forward on the vessel. And no matter what luxury suite you choose, every guest will be treated to a butler service. Starting with our very generous 32 square meter veranda suite, and this is about the size of a 5-star hotel room. Each suite not only features a separate sleep zone and lounge area, there's an ensuite bathroom, fully stocked and replenished daily minibar, including illy coffee and specialty teas. Ladies, there's also Dyson hairdryer. I'm sure you'll be excited about that. There's in-suite beverage and dining service, and an HD TV Bose sound system. Now, Scenic Eclipse is equipped with enhanced HVAC systems. Now, I'm not a big tech person, but I'm sure Jason can describe that all of our technology doesn't just stop at the engines.
No, it's throughout the entire ship and throughout, for our guests themselves, even in their suites, with the different kind of power receptacles in there for our guests, and even in the bathrooms, the technology in the showers and everything. I mean, it's just amazing. No detail left unturned on board.
Yeah.
The guest experience.
Yes. And let's talk a little bit more about indulgence. And this is probably one of my favorite suites. This is the Opulent Spa Suite. It's located on decks 8 and 9, and it starts at about 46 to 50 square meters. And this spa suite, you can see here, features a 4-poster king bed, dual vanity basins, and a Vitality mist showers with color light therapy. That's a new one. And speaking of indulgence, a double-size Philippe Stark design jacuzzi. And to top off the benefits, when booking the spa suite and during the cruise, you'll get a complimentary spa treatment as well. Now let's move further up the food chain, ranging in size from 105 to 110 square meters. These are our Panorama and Grand Panorama suites, and it really takes style to that next level. There are 4 suites, 2 in each category, and these are located on the forward of the ship. And it all features spacious curved terraces overlooking the bow, and features a separate bedroom suite and living areas, including a private dining table. and you've got to check out the bathroom in this suite. And for me, the best feature is the steam shower, full bath, and as I mentioned, dual vanity. But Jason, there are other priority service that guests enjoy in these suites as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they get priority choice to the excursions, especially when we're in ports, and the discovery options that we have for the different tours, the discovery tours that we offer. But also they have priority dining in the specialty restaurants and VIP embarkation and disembarkation.
Now, I'm sure these suites are proving very popular with our guests, and I believe one of the first suites to get sold out. And what about this one? This is the ultimate retreat and indulgence, our owner's penthouse suites at a whopping 195 square meters. It's located on deck 9, and again, it overlooks the bow, and I think they probably boast the very best views on board.
Oh, having your own observation deck to absolutely see the most magnificent landscapes and the wildlife, you know, that they're going to see out there. Just incredible.
Absolutely. And this suite also features a separate lounge area, a personally tailored wine bar. So if it's just a particular type of rosé that you want, we'll make sure our butler fills that wine bar for you with that particular drop. We have an 8-seat dining table, guest powder room, and it's complete with his and hers walk-in wardrobes. Not even I have that in my little apartment. Or this, your own private terrace with your own very own jacuzzi. That's a bit special. And of course, the bathroom in the owner's penthouse suites, again, bigger than the size of my first apartment. Now, our guests can also choose to combine the owner's penthouse suite with a spa suite to create a magnificent 2-bedroom penthouse suite for the pinnacle of accommodation at an incredible 247 square meters. Now, Jason, this is such a unique product in the market. What do you think is the most popular suite on board? What's your favorite?
Well, obviously my favorite is the owner suite, but I like the spa suites too that I've stayed at. But to be honest with you, onboard Eclipse it sells from the top down. So deck 9 in the owner suites are usually the first to go, and then deck 8, and then it makes its way down. So it's from top down on board Eclipse, which makes her unique.
Yeah, so that's a great look and insight into your choice of suites on board. So let's talk about what kind of experience you'd be wanting to go on the Eclipse. So when choosing a Scenic Eclipse voyage, it is really important to choose the right experience for you. So this is why we've categorized all of our itineraries into these 3 voyages and experiences: expedition, discovery, and cruise. Jason, what are our Scenic Expedition voyages about?
The expedition voyage is where we have our full discovery team of 21 members there, and they're pretty much in the polar regions of the world, and that's where it's full discovery mode, where the discovery team is leading you on all of your excursions themselves. Then you have your discovery voyages where we have 15 discovery members on board, and that's kind of a hybrid where we will be in port at times, so you will have scenic enrich opportunities and scenic tours, as well as expedition activities, discovery activities that'll be taking place simultaneously. And you'll also have discovery members on all your land tours with you as a Scenic Eclipse representative. And then our scenic cruise voyage, where we have 4 discovery members, and that's where pretty much in the Mediterranean and a couple other locations where you're in a port about every day. And so the discovery team is there. I have my specialist, historian, geologist, ornithologist there to provide lectures on board, but also you have great opportunities to go kayaking, paddleboarding, snorkeling, our e-bikes that we have on board to go mountain biking or just touring around the village you're in. And our guides are there to be there with our guests on those activities as well.
Well, that certainly makes it easier to start planning what your next cruise is. Thank you so much, Jason.
Well, everybody, on to the final part of the presentation. We all know the world's different, and we've mentioned our priority always has been and will be to continue to look after your health and wellness on board any of our fleets. We have a health and safety steering committee, and they are overseeing all the health and safety policies along with training and ensuring you can travel with complete confidence. We're working closely with many of the associations, the local and international governments, to ensure the protocols will exceed the latest regulatory requirements. And in addition, we're implementing the most recent insights and technologies, which you heard about from Jason before, and we are dedicated to exceed those levels of cleanliness. You'll be informed about these important procedures well in advance of your journey, and we will keep you up to date with our website. So let's take a look at booking and traveling with confidence into 2022 and beyond. We're seeing a lot of that happening. Firstly, the intimate size, you need to remember, of the world's first discovery yachts combines with a flexible booking policy, and that gives you that reason to feel confident to book. We have the advantage of the small yacht experience, and we combine it with the policy. So when cruising through oceans, we all know now more than ever that that smaller size will matter. Scenic Eclipse is designed, as we've said, with the 200 guests. So with the small guest numbers but large spaces, we have the following benefits with our booking offers. First, flexible booking policy. What does this mean? Means when you make new bookings, you can defer your travel plans up to 60 days prior to commencing your journey, and we at Scenic will not charge you fees. But do know, airlines are an example of a third party, and they might charge a fee, which we pass on. Complimentary deposit protection plan. This is fantastic. It's valued up to $500 per couple. And again, it is complimentary and will give you that extra peace of mind. And for me, I ask you all to take a note now. We offer Platinum Protection Plan at $595 per person. This will allow you to take advantage of this risk-free protection plan. If you add this onto your quote, you will be covered if you're unable to travel for reasons due to health, or if you're impacted by COVID, financial reasons like that. So there is a 100% refund up to 31 days prior to travel and departure. Again, that is less any airline fees, but I do encourage you to have a look at the Platinum Protection. And also take a look today at our super early bird offers that are available. I have seen a huge uptake and speaking to many guests and travel advisors out there. And some of these peak periods are actually selling out now, even 1 and 2 years ahead. And note, the reason is there is limited availability to secure the early bird offer. We have a 10% saving by securing the early bird price. We also have 10% savings if you pay a year in advance. And certainly looking ahead as we are now, paying a year in advance takes you into next year. Over to you, Jack.
Gentlemen, I hope we have shown you what the absolute pinnacle in ocean cruising is like on the Scenic Eclipse. And as today was just a taster, and if you'd like to find out more, please visit our website or grab one of our brochures. And if it's the Eclipse's destinations that you want to learn more about, we have 2 amazing presentations coming up after this, and it's hosted by our very own Jason Fletcher. So sign up after we sign off to hear about Antarctica and the Arctic. We have also developed a full showcase of other online presentations for you to view at your leisure. Now, these include all of the destinations that Scenic travels to, and we also include some inspiring video footage from the Getaway Show that is screened here in Australia every Saturday on Channel 9. So for any of you that would like to watch these travel showcase presentations, please go to either scenic.com.au/travel showcase for our Australian viewers, or scenicnz.com/travel showcase for our New Zealand viewers. It's up there written on the screen. But
Well,
first, now we open the floor up to you, our viewers, as this is your chance to ask Jason any burning questions you may have about the eclipse. Are you ready, Jason?
I am ready.
Beautiful. So please type in your questions via the Q&A tab, which you will find at the bottom of your Zoom screen.
Jackie, I've seen we have answered some questions already. And we've just got a couple we can answer now. And folks, type them in. We will respond to you. We'll send them directly to our res team. But there was one I just want to mention, that you have heard the great news. Scenic Eclipse is coming to cruise the Kimberleys. Now, noting late June to August, and that is subject to the regulatory approvals. Please contact us or your travel advisor and go to our website for more information about this. And she is selling. There's another question up here now. What's the chances for every passenger to be invited to the chef's table?
Well, I can answer that. It depends on one, what suite you're in. There's an automatic invite, but also when you are on board, go to the front desk and let reception know that you would like to, and they will do their best to get you on a list. Now, it's not every night. They do chef's table. It's every other night. And so there's always the potential opportunity, for our guests. But it is part of that, enrich program in our upper suites.
Excellent. And Jackie, have you got any of those other questions? We've got a few here. As I said, we will answer them all, but just one more there, Jackie, if you've got one there.
Yes, I've got Jake asking about what clothing is provided if he goes on the Antarctic cruise.
That's a great question. So you are provided with a complimentary parka that you get to take home with you. We will have them on board for you. They'll be in your suites ready on your arrival. And they're wonderful 3-in-1 jackets. So there's an inner liner that unzips, or you can wear the shell and the liner itself. And then we also provide what we call our muck boots. They're not complimentary for guests to take home, but they are on board where we will get all our guests outfitted properly with the right size of these boots. They go up basically just below your knee. So in the case that you have a water landing where the Zodiac goes up to shore, but you can't just get all the way to shore, you may have to step in the water. You would never step anything deeper than the boots will go. So we do provide that for you as well.
Well, look, we will have to wrap it there. We do have more questions, and we assure you folks, if you just type them in now, I'll be wrapping up the presentation and we will certainly get back to you. We'll have our team contact you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say to you on behalf of Jackie, Jason, myself, and the entire Scenic team, we've been delighted to share with you our award-winning cruises. We hope you have enjoyed this as much as we have. We certainly look forward to planning your journey on Scenic Eclipse. The popularity of these experiences and of the limited number of cruises and small guest numbers mean it's important today to take that next step. Contact us right after this session or your local travel advisor. We thank you for your ongoing support. If you're new to Scenic, we will look forward to welcoming you and seeing you on board soon. And you'll get to meet Jason, hopefully. And this will be like an experience you've never had before. We do have 2 destinational sessions coming up in the next couple of hours. And of course, we'll be focusing right on those areas because we've covered everything in the ship presentation as we have now. Thank you. And this presentation will now stop broadcasting.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.